Hello, I'm Julia Nickerson. I'm an estate planning attorney with Nickerson Law Group in Austin, Texas. When most people think of an estate attorney or planning their estate, they think of a senior citizen with massive amounts of wealth and long documents and expensive fees. But in reality, it doesn't matter what stage in life you're in. Everyone needs a legal plan. This reality was slapped across my face almost 12 years ago when I gave birth to my oldest child. I was expecting to hold my baby and pose for numerous photo opportunities. I had a scrapbook to create, after all. Instead, I was rushed into the emergency room. I was intubated and put on life support. I saw a light at the end of a long tunnel, and it looked like it was a nice place to go, but I thought if I went there, I wouldn't be able to meet my son. That night, the first night after he was born, I spent in the intensive care unit, and the next morning when I woke up, I was asked to stand up, which I couldn't do on my own. So I was given 2 liters of blood transfused into my veins. I learned later that what had happened to me was a rare complication that nobody could have expected. But what came of that event was very profound for me. It made me learn a lot of life lessons. I think the first one is always be nice to your nurse. She could save your life. I had very wonderful nurses when I was in this situation, and I'm very grateful for nurses. Always have your baby in a hospital. I think it's another important life lesson. And I learned also something that I think most parents realize at some point in time, that the sacrifices that we go through for the benefit of our children transform us into more loving, more dedicated, and less selfish human beings. And as attorney, I realized, well, now that I'm a parent, I better do something and get my legal affairs in order. What would have happened to my child if something would have happened to me? So this was easy for me because I went back to work and I worked at a law firm. And the first thing I decided I needed to do was to create a guardianship document and name who would be a guardian for my son if something happened to me. And this was extra important because my husband was in the military. He was a SEAL with SEAL Team 1 in the Navy, and he was getting ready to be deployed for 6 months. He was going to be leaving 3 months after my son was born. So what would have happened to my son if my husband was deployed and something happened to me? I didn't want him taken out of my home. I didn't want him going to Child Protective Services. And we had decided that we would name siblings as his guardian, and siblings of my husband and myself. But none of our siblings lived anywhere near us, not even in the same state where we lived. So we decided, all right, we need to name some emergency people, some emergency caregivers who have the legal authority to take care of our child so that if we're unable to, then these people can step in and not allow my child to be taken out of the hands and put into the hands of strangers. Then I decided, all right, well, we better actually give that document to these people. Once the document was prepared, it's not going to do any good if it's sitting in a safe deposit box or our fireproof safe at home or even in a desk drawer. They actually need to have the document in case there's an emergency. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, how are they going to know if there's an emergency? How are they going to be contacted? So I put notes on the refrigerator listing who their names were. I put notes in my wallet, in my glove compartment of my vehicle. And now at my law firm, we have more professional items. We have wallets, cards, and professionally created magnets. But you know, the idea that the guardian needs to be notified in case there's an emergency, I think is an important aspect to consider when you're planning for your family. So wow, this was a lot of work getting all this guardianship stuff into place. And then I decided, well, I've got a good job, my husband has a good job, but we're 30, and we have some savings, but we don't have so much savings that we would be able to put our child through college and pay for all of the things that he's going to be needing for the next 20 years of his life. So we decided we needed some term life insurance. So we got that, and you know, the first thing that they ask you when you get your term life insurance is, okay, who's going to be your beneficiary? So all right, that can be my husband first, but what about the second person? It can't be my child, because a child who's an infant, or even at 18, they're not ready yet to manage assets. And it couldn't be the guardian, because these assets that aren't for the benefit of the guardian, they're not going to be subject to the guardian's creditors, and they're not going to be subject to their situations. What if the guardians, something happened to them? So I thought, all right, well, we need a trust. We need a trust for him. Well, trust. I set up trusts a lot, and everyone who I set up trusts for are really wealthy people with lots and lots and lots of assets. Are you sure I need a trust? Yes, Julia, I'm sure you need a trust, is what I thought. And so we created a trust. Now, when I designed this trust, of course, we thought, all right, is it going to be a generic trust, just use it for the child's benefit, or should we put some actual information in the trust that gave guidelines to the guardians and the trustee who were using the assets for the benefit of the beneficiaries, who are my children? And we didn't necessarily want to rule from the grave, but just put some things in there like, well, if he goes to college, we'll pay for his college, but we don't want him to become a perpetual student without any career goal or direction. Or if he becomes addicted to drugs or alcohol, then he's not going to gain access without any strings to the money that's in here. And it's important that money is used to ensure that he maintains a relationship not only with my side of the family, but with my husband's side of the family. So we thought about all of these kinds of things. We put it in there for the trust for my son. The good news is my husband came back from his deployment overseas, and everything was fine. It did make me sleep a lot better when he was gone, knowing that we had our legal plan in place. We now have 3 children, and I have my own law firm, and we help people sort through their legal planning every day. The kinds of people who we see in our office are people who have life insurance policies, have a retirement account, who have a home, who maybe have a brokerage account and some savings, and maybe children or minor children. All of these people need legal planning. One of the things that we say to families is smart parents plan ahead, and smart families plan ahead. So just by listening to this video, you're one step ahead.